How are you doing?
I'm good. You Brits with your 7 hours on top of us with your nice hair and you're all chip. What is it? Noon? One? What was it? Perfect time for you
Mate,
to be awake?
it is 3 in the afternoon actually.
Oh, are you mainland Europe now? Or are you in the UK?
I am in the UK. I'm in the beautiful British Isles in London, in the home of the
Mhm.
Queen, enjoying another beautiful day of lockdown at the
Oh,
moment over here.
okay. What
Mm.
is it sunny out there? Because I'm looking. It's like you got me at an early. You have no idea how kind it is of me to wake up this early to go. And
Thank you
I'm
very
look
much.
well, I'm looking outside and it's one of those days where the morning is giving me the big finger because it's bright and sunny out and the birds are chirping. And all I want to do is go back to bed.
But thank you ever so much for getting up early, mate. It's Aaron. It's always a pleasure, and it's great to be on your channel. So thank you ever so much. I
Oh,
appreciate
no
it.
problem. Yeah, no, I wanted to get like all you guys from the Rule Zero group we did
Yeah.
because we had more talent there than can be digested probably in a year, and we all got our own things. Like, oh yeah, I gotta get Troy and Myron. I had
Yeah.
Myron on a little bit ago.
Yeah, I was on with Myron yesterday. Actually, I did a show with Myron. Those guys, their Instagram thing. I know for us, more on
Old
the boomer.
farts.
Yeah, well, yeah. So on the boomer side of things, it's we don't even know what Instagram is. But those guys, he's got it going on with Instagram. He really knows what he's talking about.
It's a different world. There was one of the more interesting conversations I had because it is two generations and it's two different environments, especially with him being in Miami, which is its own unique epicenter.
Yes.
And just how everything is online, and you either have Instagram. I mean, that's your new number is Instagram. It's not you talking to a girl or anything like that. And boy, it kind of made me happy. I was like, man, it's not me anymore. I'm out of it. I just left that back in the odds.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sort of like, because of how my life's panned out, because I've been sort of like effectively kind of living the same as I am when I was 18 years old into my 40s. I mean, albeit I've got a girlfriend now and all the rest of it, but nevertheless, there hasn't been some massive changes. So I've sort of kept up with stuff to a degree because I've kind of, particularly because dating girls who are in their 20s and things like that, you're kind of forced into having to sort of know about this stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's the new that's the new market. That's the new industry standard is you have to and I remember when online dating came out. I'm like, oh, what losers do that? And
Exactly.
or speed dating. And now that's what in who even, I mean, you're probably a relic in some regards, not to insult you, use a derogatory term, but to go up to a woman in person, I mean, it's almost foreign to most young men today.
Well, it is, but at the same time, that can give you an advantage because I mean, it's funny because with day game or daytime approach or whatever you want to call it, which is basically just going up to chicks in the street and chatting to them. People started doing it in London back in the early 2000s. It became a bit of a thing, it became fashionable. Guys started doing it. And there was always this fear amongst these guys. It's like, oh my God, it's going to go mainstream. And then the girls are going to get onto it and then it's not going to work anymore and everything. And I don't think that was ever going to happen anyway. But in fact, what has happened is with the rise of the social networks and dating apps, it's actually gone back down again because now guys are all just doing the app. So if you could approach in real life, then that actually can advantage you.
Well, what's very interesting is I just finished my book earlier this morning because you forced me to get up, and I'm like, well, I might as well get up and go do something now. Might as well produce some GDP. But the numbers are amazing between, I guess we could say it's a bifurcated market where let's just admit it. It takes nothing to swipe right. And that's a strategy many men do. It's not even a strategy. It's just right. And they all outsource then the screening to the women so that they don't have to. Because, what do you care? It's swiping right. Whereas opposed to in the olden days or old school, you have to go up and actually talk to a girl. It really does screen out. And the numbers I found are just, it's telling. Where there's different studies. Have you seen these tree diagrams where guys will say, here's my 100 days on Tinder or my 100 days on OkCupid? Have you ever seen those charts?
Yes, I think so. Where they track the results and things.
Right. And so it's a very interesting tree diagram, and it shows you how many never responded, how many counter-liked or swipe right in return. And then there's like this little trickle. I mean, we're talking one guy had 16,000 swipes and resulted in 4 dates. It is a microscopic response rate. And it almost like compels you, like, look, stop wasting an hour a day on dating apps and just go out and talk to a girl, because all right, you're gonna have to like put your pride at a little bit of risk, but your chances are much higher.
Well, I suppose I'm in that demographic where I'm sort of caught between the two, because I have used the dating apps and I have been successful on dating apps, and also had, some funny experiences and a load of knockbacks, like a lot of people. But I have had success on dating apps, so I'm familiar with that world. But at the same time, my thing was always in real life approaching, and just going out and actually going and having conversations with people, and and I still enjoy that, in spite of the fact that it's becoming criminalized across most of the world. But I still think that there is definitely a place for that, and you'd be surprised. And this is the thing, right? Because there's a lot of pushback in this space at the moment against people who are like myself, dating coaches, or people who create content about dating and relationships and things. Because there's all these dudes who are just like, no, man, it's all about looks. If you're not a Chad, if you're not 6'7" and stacked and all the rest of it, then you may as well just go and die, because you're never going to get, there's all of that attitude. But actually what a lot of them are talking about, when they'll say, well, we're backing this up with evidence, but a lot of the evidence that they bring to the table is from the dating apps. And the truth of the matter is that almost every guy I've ever spoken to who knows about this will say, I get better results when I approach in real life than I do on dating apps. Like dating apps, you swipe 100 times, and like you said, you don't get any matches. And then if you do get matches, she's 75, and
flaky, and the flake rate is horrendous.
And that is kind of the nature of that particular ecosphere. But when you actually go out and interact in real life, you'd be surprised. It adds several points to your SMV. I think when you go out and in real life, you can give it in real life, if you know what I mean.
I wouldn't even say just add several points to your SMV. Based on the numbers, we're talking a magnitude of 2 decimal points. I mean, you increase your chances by 100%, because there's no investment online from either the men or the women. It's like swiping. It's nothing. That person isn't real. You're not even approaching the girl. But when you actually approach a girl in real life, not only you personally investing your own pride, I guess, though after a while it's more of a game, and you learn not to really take it personally. But now you're in front of the gal, you have her audience. It's very much more real, and she is counter invested in that interaction as well. And I've seen and the numbers, it's like, I remember when I was younger, it's like, you ask out 10 gals, you get 1 or 2 on a date. But that's a drastic improvement over the 2% rate you're going to see with
exactly. Now listen, we got Ivan in the chat here who's saying, poor guy still stuck in the 2010 PUA mindset. Ivan, get on here. Let's talk this out now. Let's talk this out by men. Don't just hide behind your Family Guy avatar. Jesus. Who are these people? But no, I mean, seriously. But I mean, seriously. Listen. I mean, and somebody else earlier on said, "Oh, these guys have got girlfriends and stuff like that." I mean, I've been seeing this girl for like a couple of years. It was very casual at first. We're more serious now. But I'm still out and about. Do you know what I mean? And I still work with clients all the time. I'm still out in London every single day.
You still roll on the mat. You're not out of the ring.
I'm still rolling on the mat, and the reality of the matter is, I was out and about a couple of weekends ago. I was doing a boot camp with a dude called James Tusk, who's a well-known dating, day game coach over here and stuff. We had some clients, and the reality is, human nature hasn't changed so extraordinarily that if you walk up to somebody and you create that good chemistry, you create that good impression face to face, that's not going to count for something. And I mean, you must know that from your dancing days and everything.
Oh, right?
There's something about that physical interaction, right?
What I get a kick out of is, we got 2 million years of human evolution behind us and hardwired programming. And people think like, oh, well, with now it's online, this has somehow fundamentally undermined the biological programming of women. You can still, and I can still see it. Like, yes, if I want to, there was that cute girl at the restaurant or whatever, and the opportunity, you can identify she's flirting with you, and if you want to, you could go ahead and throw it in there. It really hasn't fundamentally changed. All is the veneer or the shield women have put on with modern day political sensibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, the other thing I would say is that I'm not some sort of apologist for I'm not some sort of purist about this, where I'm saying, "Oh, don't use these modern apps." It's all just stick to what used to work back in 1985. It's not like that. I mean, like basically, the only reason I've built any sort of a platform in this space at all was because I was blogging. I was blogging for Roosh, as back in
Fair
the day.
amount of guys came from that, right?
Yeah, return it on ROK back in the day. And I was basically writing about my own experiences out there in the field. I was meeting all these girls, dating different girls. At one point I was seeing 5 girls at the same time, which was pretty exhausting. And all of this. So I was just sort of cataloging that and hopefully pulling out some lessons for dudes. And, I've just continued from there. So really all I've done is shared my experience with people and said, hopefully maybe there's something here you can learn, maybe not, whatever, But anyway, I'm not some massive purist in terms of you should be doing it like we used to do it back in 2004, or you should, it's only about clubs or it's only about daytime approach. I mean, guys should be, if guys are having difficulties in their dating lives, they should be using all avenues to meet girls. And I believe spending I take on board what you're saying, Aaron, but I also think using the apps maybe just as a, in the background, doing a bit of swiping, you might as well, right? Because you never know where that next lead's going to come from.
Right. And what I've found, especially as the internet has gotten larger bandwidth and you have more apps, you can waste less and less time. Like, let's say you're on the train or you're on the subway or you're waiting in line. Fine. Why the heck you're on the toilet? Go ahead. Fine. Swipe. But just the numbers I've been pulling. Do you know what the average guy spends on dating apps per day?
No, I don't.
It's like 80 minutes.
Wow. Okay.
Like that's 1/16, which is 7-8% of your day. I mean, that's working out at the gym. There's some serious costs now for essentially going. It's a lottery. It's basically a lottery. You're buying this lottery ticket, and an hour of your time a day on dating apps. I'm saying, okay, you're stuck in traffic, this and that. You got truly no opportunity costs. But I just look at these online dating statistics and the success, and this isn't, use every tool you possibly can. That is the new normal. I'm not doubting what Myron says. Of course, you have to have an Instagram account and everything like that. But I think for some of the younger men out there, what I know, foreign concept, grabbing your nutsack, walking up to a girl and saying, "Hi, my name's Bob, and you want to grab coffee," be a little bit more indirect than that. But I think there's this lost art. Maybe it's not even lost art, but the intimidation of personal interaction and having to approach a woman, that's deterring a lot of guys, but that's probably still to this day the most effective and successful approach you're going to have.
Well, I mean, there was somebody quite recently who I can't comment on if it was me or not, but approached a very attractive 20-year-old Ukrainian girl and got her telephone number and then got traction off the back of that. Now, on the dating apps, would that have been possible? Maybe not, because for on a very base level, many women will, of course, have certain parameters of age and things like this. So they will say, well, I'm not, I'm going to cap my age at like 37 or 35 or whatever it is. And so you're not even in the search criteria anyway. Okay. So, but the way that there's just a marked difference in terms of the value of a successful daytime approach as opposed to just swiping and her looking at your pictures kind of thing. And it really is, like I said, I mean, I don't, like you said, it's 100% that you add to your chances, if you like. I mean, you certainly, like, just the way that you put yourself across, without getting Pat Stedman about this, the energy that you bring to the interaction, right, is it makes a massive difference. And you can't communicate that over the apps, I don't believe.
Right. No, it's huge. And what we're talking about is human attraction. And I don't care how good your pictures are online. It's still a digital photograph. Oh, yeah, that's a handsome man or whatever. But when you are in person with that person, there's a million factors going into that. Yeah. Your position, your eyes, your demeanor, your charm, even your scent, we could say, your fashion. And that's why if gals are going to say, well, he has to be between this age and that age, it's all very formulaic. That's not human. And a guy who's like, well, I'm 42, but you said under 40, he walks in, he's a good looking 42-year-old and talks to the Ukrainian girl who's 20. Though there is so much being left on the table where you see this cute
Well,
girl at the grocery store and you don't talk to her.
yeah. Well, I mean, my girl who I'm with now, right? She's of Indian descent. She was brought up in Dubai. Very obviously very beautiful girl. And I met her actually in a nightclub. It was a couple of years ago now. We met, and she is in her 20s. And we got together. You know, I walked up to her. We had a conversation, exchanged numbers, started dating, whatever. You know, and she said to me shortly afterwards. She said, "I only had 3 criteria for a guy." She said, "The first thing is under 35. The second thing, I didn't meet him in a club, and the third thing, that he was of the same ethnic background as me."
Yeah, you struck out.
Like, and I failed on all of them, right? And then she ends up with me, and we have a great time together. So it's kind of like, you know, on paper, if I'd have just met her on Tinder, or so, you know, she'd have seen me on Tinder, it would have just been a swipe left. Do you know what I mean? But because of that human interaction, whatever the value of that was, it meant that we got together. And even though it's kind of unlikely, I mean, we're very different in many ways, but even though it's unlikely, it works really well. And there's that magic, intangible thing, isn't there, of meeting somebody in person that you can't replicate.
Yeah, no, there's no way. I mean, like, even on the dance floor, there'd be times I'd be with this gal. I'm like, just the dancing. Like, she would follow and she'd read my lead, and there was no way to describe it using any language. It was just like, wow, you had chemistry. I guess chemistry is the best way to put it. You're not going to get that online. And and we've all known this, and not to sound cheeky or anything, women don't know what the fuck they want. They really don't. And until it's presented to them, and men to a certain extent too, like, there's a sports car that I never knew I wanted until it was created. Like, you know, I like Corvettes. Okay, you know, the R7. All right. But then I won't say what it was, but this car came out. I'm like, that's what I want. And until you present yourself to these women in the real world, the digital is maybe 1/100th of your selling potential.
Yeah, and I mean the guys who teach online dating, and obviously we're mates with some of them, and they do a really good job. So John MLD's course is great. The Instagram course that Myron and the guys and Fresh are doing is great as well. But obviously a big part of that will be get amazing photographs. So go to a professional photographer. Use
Myron. Yeah, Myron was saying the number one thing is bad photographs on people's dating profiles. Yeah,
and you know, and all of that's fair enough. So you can manipulate those things, and there is a lot you can do with photographs. Because to be honest, I was pretty clueless, really, with my apps before, and learning from those guys. I think if I was out in the field again, I would do it very differently now. And I take on board a lot of what they say. And I'm sure that does improve your odds. But even still, on something like Tinder and Bumble also, and I think Hinge, from what I remember of Hinge, it's just like you're not getting anything much across. I mean, you can get something across in the pictures, because you can have pictures of yourself doing different things. You know, maybe you've got your shirt off and, you know, you're chopping some wood or something in one of them, and, you know, whatever. But, or maybe you've got a MAGA hat on and you're smoking a cigar or something. I don't know. But you know, like you can put across some of your personality, but it's not animated, is it? It's not. It's still not that person-to-person connection.
What I'd also say, and I hope any young men or old men are listening, although the older guys kind of know this, is it unconscious to women even. There's a lot to be said about a guy who approaches in person. Because you're displaying courage, you're displaying, I hate to use the word bravery, because I don't know, you and I being roughly the same age, it's not literally brave or courageous, it's just a sales game to us. But for a young guy, like, I mean, remember when you're like 13 and there was Susie Jones and you really wanted, oh God, and you got sweaty palms and well, that's kind of a trial, a baptism by fire. That's a rite of passage that I think every young man should go through, but they don't. And there's still, when you go up to a girl in person and break that social faux pas and say, hi, blah, you could say blah, 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 blue. The fact you are breaking that social faux pas and going up to a woman randomly in public might be a little intimidating, might even be a little bit scary for the girl, but it demonstrates you are statistically different than all the other men. And the main thing that had you become this statistical oddity is, I would say, a little bit of courage. A little, you grew a nutsack and you went up and talked to the girl. And whether they consciously digest that or not, it's a huge selling point to you, which is why I think that, you know, person day game, approaching a girl in person that doesn't, I don't think it does. It does. It absolutely does have a higher success rate than online.
Yeah, I mean, although to manage expectations for anybody who's sort of considering doing this, I mean, there are also you also get rejections. It's not like it's a magic pill. You'll also walk up to the girl and she'll sort of say, "Oh, thanks, I've got a boyfriend," whatever. So obviously that stuff that happens.
You had her too. You had that girl too. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing how many of them got boyfriends. It's incredible. So yeah, of course, all of that stuff happens. And the stars have to. Firstly, you have to there are certain principles that you could learn to get better at it. Secondly, you've got to kind of develop the gift of the gab a little bit. And thirdly, the stars have to align a little bit also. But nevertheless, you can get some amazing outcomes from doing this. And by the way, I mean, I don't make any massive distinction between doing this in the daytime in Starbucks or doing it in the evening in a lounge bar or even a club. It's kind of all the same thing, really. Obviously, girls are a bit more conditioned to it in nightclubs. It seems a bit less brave to do it in the night because most people are drinking anyway, and Dutch courage and all of that.
That's it's not unheard of. Right.
But you definitely, I mean, there was another time I remember meeting this, she was of a Turkish descent, actually, this very attractive Turkish girl who I dated briefly in London. And I stopped her. She was walking down the street. I stopped her and I did my spiel. I was like, I just saw you, look really cute. Wanted to say hi. I knew I'd kick myself if I didn't seize this moment or whatever, Got her phone number. We start dating. And then again, she told me afterwards, she said, "You were not my type." She said, "But the fact that you came up and approached me like that," she said, "I thought it showed balls." Mm-hmm. And for that reason, she was interested to give me a shot, I suppose, or she was interested to come and meet me on the date. So this is the thing. I mean, yes, women are visual. Yes, looks matter. But at the same time, other qualities also matter. And, the degree, I suppose the argument or the debate, if you like, between the doomer sort of guys and then those of us who say you should improve yourself and you can work on yourself and all this sort of stuff is like, yes, looks matter. They would say looks are the only things that matter. And I suppose the rest of us are saying, no, there are other personality-led things that make a difference. And I guess the debate is around the degree to which those things make a difference, aside from your physicality. But I believe it's quite a lot for guys. I don't know if you've got a figure on it, but I think it's quite significant.
It is. Depends on how you want to analyze it. But income is a huge thing. Title is also a huge thing. But you can fabricate that or have it or not. Height is a variable. But the number one thing, I even got the number. You want numbers, Troy?
Yeah.
I got numbers for it because I just calculated them last night. All right. So there's like four main things. Your income, if you meet certain income requirements, you increase your chances fivefold, 500%. What was the other one? Income. There was looks, obviously, that's a huge one. That's 500% as well compared to the average guy because it's skewed. So you could go from a 5 to a 7. That's not going to be a 20% increase. That's going to be more like a 40% increase because women are exponentially more attracted to the higher end guys. So once you get past a 5, you're getting a higher rate of return of going to the gym and things like that. But the number one thing, based on the model I programmed and looked at it, and I saw this in a bifurcated, bimodal distribution of the number of women men date per marriage. There's two camps. There's guys who they average around 10 women they'll date before they get married. And then there's serial players like you, me, Stone, the old guys, whatever, who are in the 100+ category. And it really is just simple math. If you go out with 100 girls, you ask out 1,000, you go out with 100, you're already improving your chances. So the number of women, depending on how many women you ask, but if you're a serial player, you increase your chances by 3,300%. 33 times, which is more than the 5 times you get with looks. It's more than the 5 times you get with income. It's putting yourself out there, getting shot down the majority of the time, but it's the effort you put in. And if you take the time, it becomes an issue of how much effort and time do you want to put into it. Now, you obviously, you're groomed, you have good fashion, you put a little bit into it, you obviously work out, and that's what every guy probably should do as well. But man, it's just, did you ask a girl out today? Were
Yeah.
you on the bus? Did you see the cute girl at the bus stop? Well, did you say, hey, goobity, goobity, gobbity, gobbity? Or did you like walk away? And that, I think, is the number one, at least based on my numbers, like at least half, more than half. I'd almost say 2/3 of the success is how much effort you put into it. Now, what you're putting forward also depends. You can't be some fat Slavic guy just walking up to a gal. You have to be somewhat presentable. But by far, it's the amount of effort and the number of girls you ask out that die. And I'm not talking swipes. I'm like, you go ask out that girl in person.
Yeah.
That's the number one variable that affects the success.
Well, I remember reading this article about this guy in New York City who was not in any way, he wasn't like a player, he wasn't like anything to do with game or any of that kind of stuff. But he would be just every day on the subway, he would just ask different women out. And apparently he was a pretty average sort of kind of middle-aged dude, nothing particularly special. And he'd slept with over 500 women just because he was consistently, and he wasn't doing some amazing game technique.
And he wasn't that good looking either?
No, he was just like some regular dude. But because
was his name Sterling Cooper?
It didn't say he filmed it. But yeah, you know, and so I think just the consistency and you know, it's the old thing, isn't it? It's like there's so many analogies with sales here, but it's like the more if people just asked for the things that they wanted, you get them so many more times than you think, right? Mm-hmm. And that was my problem when I was an adolescent, because you were talking about younger guys before. And when I was a younger guy, I couldn't do any of this stuff because my fear of rejection was so huge. Right. That the thought of being rejected, I just thought the world would end. And so I was never able to do it. And then as I got older, I was just like, sorry, I'm just gonna keep spinning that wheel and see what happens, you know?
Let me ask you about this concept. I think this would help a lot of young men, whether you're dating online or not, but certainly in person. I've told this story before, but like probably at the peak of my game when I was single, I was making, adjusted for today's dollars, about $100,000. I made another 40 grand teaching ballroom dance. And I remember one day had my navy blue suit on, looked like $1 million, went into the office, did my banking thing. Then I taught 3 hours ballroom dance classes, and I went to a jazz club afterwards. And you know, here I am making roughly around 150 grand in today's dollars. Good looking guy it cannot get any better. I could not put a better foot forward than what I was at 33 or whatever the age I was back then. So there's this dance jazz club. There's Vic Villari and the Villari Lounge Orchestra, who are still playing to this day. You could find them on the internet. Very good jazz quartet. And I asked one gal to dance, and she said, there's a dance floor, keep in mind. It's not like I just randomly asked, let's go dance in the corner. There's a dance floor. Then she said no. And then I asked another gal, and she said no. And I think by the fourth or fifth one I got shot down, I'm like, I'm asking every single woman here. And it was 31 women. They all said no. Now, normally, that would destroy or devastate a young man, or especially if you're not used to it. All that proved to me is it's like, look, it doesn't get any better than this, ladies. I'm a fucking ballroom dance instructor. Not that they knew that. I make good money. I'm in a goddamn suit. We're at a goddamn dance club. There's a goddamn band and a goddamn dance floor. And you all decided to shoot me down. And I think what men need to know is, one, as we've talked about before, women don't know what they want. Like, I wish I had a guy to da-da-da. Like, dude, I think the worst thing in front of you right now is that I'm 5'9". That's about the only drawback right now. It doesn't get any better than this. But they all shot me down anyway. And what's very important for men to know is not only that women don't know what they want, but as long as you are the best version of you can possibly become, not to sound like Oprah, but you're like, look, okay, I work out. I have a career, a profession. I'm coming up. I'm trying. You knock that all out. If you get shot down, they're wrong, objectively wrong. And I think that helps you get over that salesman approach where it's like, as long as you know you got value and you're a good guy and you got things going on, you almost want them to say, you go up to a gal and you're almost saying, I hope she says no. So 10 years from now, when she says, where have all the good men gone? I guess I remember this one time some guy asked you out on a date and you said no. And so I think that is something that can alleviate your fears of rejection, is knowing that they're rejecting a good guy.
Well, that's really true, actually. And that's the mindset that guys need to get to somehow. However you get there, you need to get to that mindset where you're walking around and you're a bit like, she rejects you and you're like, huh? It's like, well,
Yeah.
I really had that. I mean, whether I've still quite got it now, I don't know. But there was certainly throughout a lot of my 30s, I was in corporate work. I had the suits. I was ripped. Well, maybe not ripped, but whatever. I was in good shape. I was, all of that stuff going on. And I'm walking around and I'm talking to these girls, getting these girls, and I was very successful. I had a lot going on, but also obviously I got plenty of rejections as well. And I remember thinking to myself at that time, there is literally no reason why a girl in her 20s should not want to go with me objectively. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got the flat, I've got the job, I've got the bloody blah. And then girls would turn me down, and I'd be almost like one girl said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and I'm like, "No, I'm sorry for you." Do you know what I mean?
How'd that go?
Oh, she loved it, but she kind of laughed, and she kind of got it. She got what I was doing because they'll sometimes try to. That kind of horrible, sickly, friend zone type thing. They're like, "Oh, but you're a really nice guy, though." It's like, no, sod that. Listen, you missed out, and then block and never see her again or whatever. So yeah, I think that sort of arrogance, that sort of sense of oneself as being, well, hang on a minute, this I am the prize, to coin a phrase, is really where you want to get to.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, these women don't have your resume in front of them. Like when they don't know you from a bum on the street. Yeah. I mean, there should be some tells, like, I don't know, you're in a suit, you're dressed well, you're at a jazz club. Just saying. And then they're asking you to, I'm just saying. But it's really for the man's own sake. And I don't think you can fake it. Like this fake it till you make it stuff where it's like, yeah, I'm going to act like I'm the prize. Like, no. You either are, and a gainfully employed man with prospects and opportunity costs, or you're not. You really can't fake it till you make it. You have to actually go and become the best version of yourself, or at least become an accomplished man in several regards, so that when you are shot down, either online or in person, you don't take it personally, because you're like, it forgives you and relieves you of the one to be in error. You're not wrong. You're sane. You're still based in reality. You are a good catch. And I'm not saying this like make you sound good, like, oh, your mother, like, oh, you make any girl happy. No, like, you have to be a good man so that when women turn you down, it almost opens your eyes. You're like, wow, you girls really have no fucking clue what you want or how to assess what a good guy is.
Well, how do you think location plays into all of this then? Because when I hear these comments from, say, black pill guys, and it's all this stuff about looks matter, and it's over, dude, unless you're 7'5" and you've got the 12 pack and all the rest of it. But I entirely refute that. But it does occur to me that if you are, say, in small town America, or even in small town in the UK or in Europe or wherever, and you're in some kind of like little bum ass town where there's 2,500 people and everyone kind of knows each other, it strikes me that in that situation, you are going to be very much within a hierarchy. Particularly imagine like a small town where everyone kind of knows each other. Right. There probably is the Chad who is like, head of the football team and all the rest of it. And he probably does get the best women. And then, and if you're stuck in that sort of ecosystem, then it probably, it is really hard. It really, really is really hard. But a solution is to go to Manhattan or to go to London or to go to Moscow or whatever, where suddenly you've got millions of people around you. And that really, really does change the game, I believe. So there is an element of sort of, when people have these views, it must be dictated to some extent by their personal surroundings, right? Because my experience...
There's no doubt about it. Your environment is a huge factor. I mean, what pond you fishing in? You fishing in a big pond with lots of fish, or you fishing in the sewer? So yeah, there's no doubt about that.
I fish in the sewer in the big pond.
Fish in the sewer in the big. Hang on, now I got to figure out what that metaphorically means.
I mean, like a bit of gutter game at the end of the night.
The environment that you fish in, as it were, is absolutely huge, if by any other reason numbers. But yeah, I've lived in small little towns in Wisconsin and Wyoming, and yeah, there is a hierarchy, like that. Plus, especially if you went to like middle school and high school with all these people, you've probably dated whoever the heck you were going to date, and that supply of women and men have been exhausted, and then people are either settling down or going to the next town over. But yeah, changing your environment is absolutely critical and huge to your success.
Well, I experienced this somewhat when I was growing up because although my family was from London, I was brought up in the south of England in sort of small towns, and then we moved kind of nearer to London when I was a teenager, and I used to sort of go out in London. And then I moved to Manchester, which is in the north of England, and it's a bigger city, but it's still small. I mean, there's still only 500,000 people there. And but it's a big student population, big student town, lots of nightclubs, lots of fun, everything like that. So when I was in Manchester, when I was in those small towns, it was very noticeable. And of course, I was at school and college, so you're in an even smaller pond. But it was very noticeable. There were a few very cute girls, and it'd be like, oh, everyone fancies Jane from class 5A, and everyone fancies, and then it was graded down from there. Then when I went to Manchester, suddenly I was like, whoa, there's all these beautiful women around, because it was a larger town. There were students coming from all over the country, et cetera, et cetera. And I lived in Manchester for nearly a decade. And, I had some great times there and actually a lot of success in terms of dating. But it was only when I moved back to London, and then suddenly I'm living in London where you've got like, 8, 9, nearly 10 million people now.
Yeah.
Then the game changed. And I think it was a number of things. I think it's partly because I was turning 30, so I was a bit more together. I learned about game, but also that population size for sure. It just changes the ballpark.
Oh yeah. I mean, and what I also like about large populations is anonymity. Like when I went off to college, I could go out with a girl and never see her for the remaining 3.5 years I was in college, even though we were on the same campus. I went to a very large school. So yeah, just like you're your own self, you don't have to worry about poisoning social circles, or Troy went out with Becky, my BFF, and oh my God, I hate Troy, and she tells all of her BFFs about how much you suck, and now you can't date the population of women, and that doesn't happen in a large population. But also, it's not sexy, but it really is just math. Like, yeah, there's more fish in the ocean than there is this local pond, and I think what a lot of guys got to realize, and approaching someone in person is merely an example of this. The more you stand out, I'm not saying in a bad way, like don't run around with your dick hanging out, running around with a purple hat. Okay. You'll stand out, ain't going to help you. But if you go and approach a gal, or you learn to dance, or I'm trying to think of something else where you can display a different trait, maybe okay, here's another one. When I taught economics in college, being a teacher is a huge, guys, be a teacher. Like not for high school, I'm saying for college, and wait till they graduate and then go bang them. But by the way, don't bang your students while they're your students. That's not a do. But any kind of thing that you can do to stand out in person, forget online. That's a sea of limitless men, and there's always going to be a hotter, better looking guy one click away. But if you can do something in person to stand out from the rest of men, most typically approaching a girl in person, that's probably the biggest thing you can do to help you increase your chances and statistics with gals.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you've sort of looked at those figures, is that from what sort of pond are you looking at? Is that from a sort of worldwide, or just the States, or have you not really broken it down?
Oh, the study that I just did?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's predominantly United States, but I think it would transfer very easily to the Anglosphere, United Kingdom. Some of the data I was pulling was from the United Kingdom because we didn't have it in America. Some of it was Australian. So I think it would be very applicable to the Anglosphere, certainly applicable to Western civilization. But then once you would go, for example, India or Asia, I don't know if it would apply as much.
Well, culturally, obviously, certainly India culturally is quite different here. I mean, from here in terms of the idea of cold approach and all that stuff anyway. But what do you think about height then? Have you looked at height specifically in terms of how much difference that makes?
The problem is height. They do attraction or looks, of which height is a huge part of, but I have not found any studies that breaks apart height. So that kind of handicapped me a little bit in height. But knowing my own personal experiences, I won't lie to you, height is a huge thing. And what was very common in my experience, I'm only 5'9", which is average universally, but women want taller. I was like the fun guy. I'd always get the girls. I was ballroom dancing. I could pull girls, no problem. We'd have a grand old time. But when I look back in hindsight, the tall gals would all inevitably, regrettably, not like just ghost me. They even had the courtesy and kind of say, I'd like to stick, but I can't, because this, and there'd be a reason. And then they go away. And inevitably I figure out, wait a minute, probably was because I was short and they really liked me, but they just have to have that tall guy. And so it's not this death knell that a lot of the black pillars and the short guy community, of which there is one, use as this excuse. But I won't lie, it is a handicap. It is very clear women want taller men. They want income. What's the other thing? It's income, height. Oh, and status. They definitely want status. Like the education is becoming like a vital, like you need to have a college education. Like if you're a plumber, go fuck yourself.
Really?
Yeah, not in Australia. Australia, it's different. Tradies get the ladies down in Australia, but especially in the United States, like a huge emphasis is put on the man's education. I wouldn't say it's rivaling a man's height, but it's getting up there in one of like the key 3 or 4 variables men have to consider.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, to what extent would you say that some of these negative people are correct then? And can it be ameliorated by just going out and just putting yourself out there a lot? Because I believe it can. I think that volume, and Myron, indeed, who is our, resident 6 foot whatever
whore. He's our resident whore, our frontline whore.
He's a great looking guy. He's in shape. Yeah. He's 6 foot whatever he is, and all the rest of it. And and he will always talk about volume. He says what you need to do volume, and I would agree, because I think the thing that levels the playing field, or one of the things that can level the playing field, is volume. Because if you're going out and you're consistently talking to new people, bringing new people into your life. I mean, John talks about always be sourcing, always be closing, and some other dodgy stuff probably.
Whatever
but always be watching octopus porn or something. But yeah, always be sourcing. So whenever you're out, you're going for a coffee, you're in the queue at the coffee shop, talk to the girl. You're in the dry cleaners, talk to the girl behind the counter. Whatever. I mean, you're just doing it the whole time. For me, that's what evens things up, because most of the tall chads, the 666 guys, generally aren't doing that. So they're getting what they're getting, but it's kind of passive. Whereas if you're out there being entrepreneurial in the market, then, you increase your profits, I suppose.
Absolutely. It's no different than, I was going to say Spud McKenzie, but that's a dog who was a mascot for a beer 20 years ago. It was Spud Webb, I think is the guy's name. And he's just this short dude. I think he was like 5'4", 5'5" or something, but he made it into the National Basketball Association. And so he played professional basketball. I think he could even dunk at 5'5". He could even dunk. And there's other instances of short guys who traditionally wouldn't be basketball players, but you know what? They just drilled more. They practiced more and they got in. And it absolutely is going out there, because also keep in mind that even though you might look at a nightclub, or you might look at online, or you might look out in public, there are spheres forming within little microcultures within, or subdivisions, castes even, if you would, where, okay, for example, let's say you are the magic 666 Chad, all right? You probably go to the nightclub. Girls are immediately giving you signals. You're not even aware of anyone who's an 8.5 or below. I mean, it's kind of, you're in a different world.
Yeah.
But if you are, a 6.5 and you're willing to learn to pick up dance, or learn to do, or you just put yourself out there and cast a line, you're going to get some other gals, because you're introducing yourself into this environment that most guys won't. And again, you got to pierce through that whatever natural apprehension you have about getting shot down. I understand, or it's a social faux pas now to ask a girl out in person. Get past that, and all of a sudden now you've put yourself in their environment, and you're probably one of the few guys to do it. There's very few guys, and all of a sudden now you have a front audience with this girl. She may not like you originally, there may be, but you're there. You're in the stadium or the auditorium, as it were. And absolutely. So height, I understand. But here's another philosophical perspective. What else are you gonna do? Like, you don't change. You show, okay, fine. Still go to bat, man. Take a swing at the ball.
Well, that's
and I can understand, like, all right, let's say you're an old fart like you and me. All right. And you've swung at enough balls. I'm sick of swinging at balls. Plus, I've dated enough of them. I'm done. I'm out. I can understand why you're retiring. But if you're a young man and you're short, well, okay, still go. Still try.
Yes.
And maybe do different strategy and tactics. But my God, the last thing to do is roll over and give up and die because you're going to stand absolutely no shot whatsoever then.
Well, that's always my take on this, which is like basically, even if, say, all of the black pill stuff was correct, say all of the doomer stuff is correct, it's all about looks, whatever. Well, okay, fine. But where does that get you, right? I mean,
nowhere.
And effectively, it doesn't get you anywhere. And, you know, it gets you to, well, cope or rope, as they say. You know, there's no, it's basically like, well, you might as well just commit suicide, you know. And it's a bit like Camus, you know, Camus in the Myth of Sisyphus. You know, it's a bit like, well, the logical, if that is your worldview, then the logical response to the world on that basis is that you just kill yourself because there's no point in carrying on. But what Camus says, and what I believe is, well, sod that. The defiant attitude to life is to refuse to commit suicide and just go into bat anyway. You know, because what else are you going to do? Like, you might as well just keep throwing the chips and just see where they fall, right?
One of my favorite quotes from a great author, namely me, because I wrote this quote, is your parents fucked, they didn't abort you, and now you are here. And it's very telling because you didn't control it. They decided to carry you to term, and now you're here. Now do you want to bitch and whine about and there's plenty to bitch and whine about, don't get me wrong. I mean, you have the right to be pissed off in many regards by today's standards. But the fact that you're here is like, okay, man, you got a quarter and here's your video game, and it's going to end pretty damn soon. And and even though women are not the number one thing in life, it is pretty important to men to have women in their lives, and we want them, and we're programmed to like them. It's like, okay, well, go take a shot. Don't put your life value on it. Don't be depressed if gals turn you down, whether you're short or whatever else. But man, it's like, I don't know. There's this guy called Paul. He was 5'3", short guy. But man, he had like 1.5 feet of charm. He was smooth with the girls. He knew how to dance. He was funny and charming. Now, Paul probably didn't succeed as much with women as I did. Yeah. But by God, he succeeded way more than any 5'3" guy because he did land girls. He would show up on dates. Of course, they were all taller than him. How many stuck with him? Probably very few. But God, he threw a line out there and he caught a couple fish. And so you might as well do the same.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, on the one hand, I've got a kind of nihilistic streak to me, for sure. You know, I'm a kind of like, I don't see any overarching purpose to life. I'm not, I'm kind of at least agnostic, tending towards atheist. You know, I kind of think it's all a big cosmic joke and it's all a bit ridiculous and, all of that stuff. But at the same time, I've always had this somewhat, and I liken it to entrepreneurialism. I've always had this somewhat entrepreneurial spark in me to say, well, okay, this is what I've got. These are my cards. I'm not the world's greatest looking dude. I'm not the world's tallest guy. I'm not like, I'm not naturally given to putting on a lot of body mass. All of these different things. I mean, everyone's got their disadvantages, right? But it's a bit like, well, what else am I going to, like, I just want to go out and play my hand. Do you know what I mean? And find ways, if you have to hack the system. And, in the context of dating, maybe that means traveling. Maybe that means going somewhere where your exotic value is higher or whatever. Sure. Like, why not just take the attitude of the gambler? Because it's all going to be over pretty soon anyway.
Right. And I don't think a lot of people realize that. I mean, very few people, I think people have their heads buried. From the age of 5, you're stuck in school and society's telling you what to think. And this is important. In the United States, we load up our younger people with debt. United Kingdom, Europe, it's not so much, but you still do have some student debts.
Oh, yeah.
And I think people are just focused on these lower levels of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, of just like, God, I got to find a job and I got to get out of debt.
Isn't Biden going to cancel it, though? When he...
I don't know. Don't worry, it'll all be okay. Don't worry, there won't be any problems consequently of that. But my larger point is, I don't think most people have the time to come up from air to kind of look around like, well, wait, why am I going? They never ask why. Why am I going to college? Why am I going in this amount of debt? Why? And then all of a sudden they're 30, they got a ton of student loans. Life didn't turn out anywhere near what Joe Biden or what you got, Theresa May? Is Theresa May the gal?
No, it's Boris now.
That's right, Boris Johnson. Okay, whoever. Didn't turn out the way everyone promised me in the world. And they get into this depression and an element of defeatism comes over them. And then they get lost in video games and a digital alternate reality. But yeah, it's exactly like you guys are, you ever hear the song by William Shatner, Live Life Like You're Gonna Die?
I might have done. I've heard a couple of his things.
It's just live life like you're going to die because you're
Yes.
going to. That's the lyrics. That's all it is. And that is the ultimate point in any endeavor, whether it's girls, a career, or just having fun and living life. And God Almighty to say, well, I'm short, so I'm not going to take a swing or whatever. I'm trying to think what other excuses men come up. I'm prone to being overweight. I can't put on muscle, whatever else. Like, okay, now when you're done feeling sorry for yourself, let's go play ball anyway, because you'll be, shoot, you don't even have to wait till you're dead. By the time you're about 65, unless you got a shitload of money, ain't nobody going to care about you then, unless it's like an older gal herself.
Yeah, exactly. Just going back to the looks thing briefly, I thought of this thing before. Do you think this analogy stands? It struck me, saying it's all about looks is a bit like saying business is all about the venture capital. If you haven't got the venture capital, you're screwed. You may as well not bother. Because do you see what I mean? Because actually the way around that is to be entrepreneurial and to say, all right, sorry, I haven't got any venture capital. I'm just going to bootstrap this thing. And it's the same with, I believe it's similar with dating.
I think it's kind of similar to overweight women or overweight men in general. Most people, if they're in physical shape, will be good looking. And we've all seen the gal where it's like, man, there's a hot chick underneath that 50 pounds of fat. And so are you going to look like, you know, our young Daniel Craig with the British accent? No, you're not going to look like our young Daniel Craig with the British accent, but you can be a 6, you can be a 7, maybe even an 8 if you put on a suit. And so looks is, as long as you're in good physical shape, you're at minimum going to be a 5, especially by comparison of today's Westerners. I mean, it's not that high of a hurdle to be in the top 30%, I'd even say. So height and all that other stuff considered, get in shape, lose the weight, groom, have good hygiene, be charming and all that. And then the looks, you may not look, I'm trying to think of who a really handsome guy is. Clive Owen. I think Clive Owen is one of the more handsome men out there. We all don't look like Clive Owen. But you can look like a presentable man and start bringing in 6s and 7s if you want, if you're willing to put into work.
And what do you think about, because obviously self-employment kind of dovetails a little bit into this, because what you can also do, well, pre-restrictions and all the rest of it, but what you can, hopefully, maybe this will ease and we'll be able to do this again, but you can also then travel. And if you're self-employed, you've got that sort of digital nomad lifestyle, then maybe you can go to Ukraine or you can go to Russia. And when you do that, for many people, that means, or indeed like Brazil or, Mexico, wherever it is, and then your exotic value is higher. And if you could build into your life the flexibility to do that, then you're going to start to see actually some kind of outsized results, some kind of results that you probably didn't think you would have been capable of.
Right. No, you go fishing in different lakes, you're going to catch more and different and sometimes exotic fish. I also think in traveling, I don't know. Well, you remember Roosh? You ever read Dead Bat in Paraguay?
I haven't actually read that one. No, I must confess.
It's my favorite book of Roosh's, even though it's really more just about him traveling in South America. And the reason I liked it is this was a man going on his own journey. And okay, yes, he did put forth the effort to score girls in different South American countries. But what really, I think, formed him as a guy and added to his attraction is the fact he went on that travel. He went down to South America, where countries he didn't speak the language, he wasn't familiar with the culture, and he put himself through that. And so certainly there is the argument to go overseas and fish in different ponds. But I think if you're willing to go to Thailand, or you're willing to go to India, or you're willing to go to some culture you've never been to before, not only is that putting you out there and exposing you to other cultures of women, but that's going to forge you as a better, higher quality man in the process. And so, and I'm not talking like, I'm going to go travel and look at the Eiffel Tower, like, what Americans, I mean, like, I'm going to go to Honduras and get by, I'm going to go to Laos, a completely different culture. And your goal may not even be to meet women, but you going to different, like Better Bachelor, I think a lot of his charm or attraction comes in the fact he's a well-traveled worldly man. And that plays a huge role, I'd say, and if he wanted to go and chase after girls afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. It 100%. If I think of some of the best stories that I've got that I can bring up in conversation with a girl or with anybody, really, it tends to be the ones related to travel. And I've got a friend here, James Tusk, who is a Chad, who is a really good looking guy. And he's famously a really good looking guy. He's on YouTube. He does day game. He's over in Mexico at the moment. But he said that in London, when he stops girls, because now he's traveled so much, he's been to so many places across, say, Europe, Eastern Europe, South, Latin America, etc. That almost any girl he meets, he's probably been to her country, if not even her city sometimes, and he can have a conversation. And yeah, it just adds that extra dimension to your personality. But it's like what they say, if you want to be interesting, have an interesting life,
Well, I'd also say it's very akin to martial arts. If you've ever sparred against, the more people you spar against, even if you did mixed martial arts, which I have, and I've just done jujitsu, but the more people you roll with, they all have their own technique or fighting technique. I'm sure mixed martial artists like, oh, this guy's like Muay Thai, or this guy is straight up karate, or whatever it is. Like, the more you roll with different people, the more different women from different cultures you ask out, or even just cultures you go to, you're going to have an overall better approach to handle any girl you then approach afterwards. Because, I've asked, like you said, I've been to, Costa Rica. Yeah. What town were you in Costa Rica? And it gives you an advantage there. But just interacting with different types of women, all of a sudden you come back to your home turf. Like, it's like you went out and you trained with the South Korean guys and the Japanese guys, and you drank their tea and you got beat with bamboo, and you came back and now you're like Van Damme and you could beat anyone's ass. It's kind of like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a great thing to do in itself, isn't it? And what's actually strange is that sometimes some of the more negative doomer guys will they seem almost disparaging about it in a way. They talk about travel maxing as if, we have to, we're so disadvantaged in the sexual marketplace that we have to resort to traveling abroad in order to, have a chance. And I'm kind of like, I just don't understand that mentality. Why not just do it anyway? Doesn't it stand to reason if you're in Wyoming or, whatever, and you're not getting any traction, but when you go to Mexico, you have a great time. Just why not do that? Right. I mean, life's too short, isn't it?
What you're going to find out, only because I'm more cynical than you, not necessarily because I'm older, is most of these black pill doomer type of folks, they're just looking for an excuse.
Yeah.
And this is one of my main criticisms of MGTOW is back in the day, it used to be called going ghost. And there was legitimate, it still is today, even more so, legitimate reason to say, wow, the pursuit of women really aren't worth it when you look at divorce rates and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna reprioritize my life, kind of focus it. So I'm like, okay, that's healthy. I understand that. But what it unfortunately became was a crutch or an excuse, especially for younger men who never tried. Oh, fuck these bitches and hoes. But I was like, dude, you're 14. How are you so pissed off in life? Yeah. Like, what the hell, man? You just hit puberty last week. How'd you go from puberty to hating women in 7 days? Like, didn't you kiss one girl? Like, you had no good experiences whatsoever. And so what, unfortunately, because this is a universal thing among all humans, everybody is lazy. It's just whether people are smart enough to realize hard work is actually the lazy man's smart way out.
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys are they don't want to go to the gym. But they can't get rid of their desire of biological programming to want women. And so they have to rationalize it away. And they're not wrong in some regards. Yes, women like taller men. Yes, women like richer men. Maybe you just have bad luck. You're not going to be rich, or you were born short. But I've seen way too many people using this as a crutch or an excuse so they can continue being lazy. That's just not to go to the gym.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree totally. I mean, it seems to me in the vast majority of cases, I mean, like, all right, so here's a question. Are there some guys who you would say are so physically disadvantaged that they really are not going to get any traction at all in dating? I mean, I think perhaps yes, but I would imagine it's a very, very small percentage of people.
Right. Like if you're physically disabled or, like a Stephen Hawking or something like that, or like, yeah, obviously. But I think those guys kind of know. There's a guy, what's his name? Dick Masterson, The Dick Show. He has Crippled Jesus on. He's a regular guy. And this guy's in a wheelchair and he's crippled, I think with cerebral palsy or something like that. He was born with it. Even he managed to get laid. Now, I think he had to pay for it, but he understands. He knows, well, I'm a cripple. Yeah, obviously women aren't going to want to go out with me. But no, bar that small group of truly physically disabled or marred individuals, unless you have like, a fat condition or legit one, you should be able to get yourself worked up in shape and to find yourself a 5.
Well, I mean, like because this is the thing, right? If you like a lot of the dudes in that sphere, it's like, well, wait a minute, how ugly are you? You know, we need to see some receipts. We need to see how physically unattractive you are that you're putting this stuff out there. And like, I did a show a while back called "I Am Uglier Than Top Black Pill Creators" because there was this stupid thing, like somebody, you know, it's a kind of a playground thing, but on somebody else's channel, somebody said that this one of these black pill dudes, somebody said you look a bit like Troy, and then somebody wrote underneath, "No, you're better looking than him. You're a 6 and he's a 5." So I based a whole show on it. I said, well, hang on a minute. So I'm a 5 and my dating life's fine. So what's your problem? Do you know what I mean? If you're teaching black pill, you know, looks are everything, we're all doomed, and you're better looking than me, then what the hell? Do you know what I mean? Like at the very least, we need to see how physically appalling you are, so that we can judge the. Do you know what I mean? Because like my sense of it is when I do see pictures sometimes of these dudes, you're like, well, hang on a minute, what's the bloody problem? You're not bad. Just you know, just go out and talk.
Usually, well, yeah, but to go out takes effort. A lot of these guys are overweight, and they're not ugly. You look at them, it's like the numbers I pulled: 60% of young people, not all people, young people are overweight, fat or obese, male or female, and you're like looking at these guys, like, okay. If you ran and set down the Cheetos and your Mountain Dew, you'd be fine. Same thing with the women. We're not even talking about going to the gym. Like, just go walk, man, and don't eat crap. But not only is that like you're taking away their one vice in life because it's an easy vice, but then you're also compelling them to put forth. And what this is, you think about all the time you've put into approaching women. It's a part-time, lifetime job. It may be fun when you're younger, but it got really old and tiring, especially asking 31 women to dance and all of them turning me down. It becomes a job, and then you got to go to the gym and you got to diet. And whereas I'm all for hitting the gym and dieting for your own health and sake, after a while, I can see it does become a chore. Now, you always kind of knew that, especially when you're like, oh, I got to go to the gym. I'll do this. But these guys don't even want to put forth that effort. Even in the prime of their youth and when their testosterone is high. And so you can argue and try and reason. It's a very simple, people are too damn lazy to commit to the lifetime part-time job of working out. That's really what it is. And you could try and rationalize and reason with, they just don't want to do it. They don't to do what this bald-headed Canadian we know says, nobody wants to do the work. And that's as simple as it boils down to.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, as maybe you were coming on to say that, but the truth of the matter is, as you get older, the desire does start to wane somewhat, doesn't it? And so, I guess in a way that's kind of good news because, you know, like if I know what I was like in my 20s, I mean, just that white hot sort of like, I've got to go out there and make something happen. It's like, you know, and it's like a monkey on your back, isn't it? And I had it on my back for like 20 years. And it's only really in the last couple of years starts to calm. And that I think is a good thing because it's allowed me to do some other stuff.
Focus on Troy. Yeah, you know,
exactly.
Let's do this. Let's take a little quick break. I'm going to grab a water here. I do want to ask you, because you're the guest on the show, I do have some questions about you in your profession and playing, because let's admit, you and I are old, but in also being old, we're like the Voyager spacecraft. We're the ones that are furthest out of the universe. And before some young men go travel down this path, we might have some insights and wisdom to them. So let's go take a break. We'll be back about a minute or so. All right.
Okay. All right. Cool. Indeed.
You know what? Let's get through some of these super chats here because I like to, when people pay, I feel bad if I don't answer the questions. Plus, it'd be good to have a British mind on this. You know, us Yanks, we're just, these uncultured slobs who didn't appreciate the empire. Hey, you guys got anything like Thanksgiving or anything? That was yesterday. That was like a big holiday here in the States.
Know. But, it's not really. Yeah, it's not such a big thing over here. I mean, obviously we're aware of it because of you guys, but right. I mean, there's a lot of Americans actually in London though, so they obviously celebrate. But in general, it's
But do you have like I guess Europe in general is you have like a fall festival? I know the Germans got Oktoberfest and
we kind of don't really in England, to be honest. It's like we've kind of nicked Oktoberfest a little bit. So in London, there would often be a big like Oktoberfest type thing in one of the big parks. But this year, because of the virus, that's been cancelled. So it's kind of full speed to Christmas now, really.
St. Patrick's Day, that a thing?
Yeah, massive.
Really,
yeah.
Over in Britain, huh?
Oh yeah, massive. Yeah.
I can't. That and we got Cinco de Mayo because of all the Latinos, which no one's complaining about because like, hey, another day to drink. It's I don't know if you guys got a Cinco de Mayo or maybe
no, we don't do that.
Vineyards. All right, let's go through a couple of these super chats real quick, and then we'll get to kind of the old man wisdom here. Al for $2. What do you think about third world overseas dating? I get a lot of these would be questions for you there, Troy.
Well, I mean, I don't know about third world per se, but I think any overseas dating, I think is great. I mean, I think it's good in terms of travel. Go over there and actually interact and meet people. I mean, don't fall into scams and all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? Don't go into like mail order brides or anything. But if there's a place you want to visit,
I got a guy on his 4th mail order bride, and he used to have millions of dollars, and he's down to like small 6 figs in wealth, not income, wealth. I mean, it's sad, but yeah.
Yeah, you want to avoid that.
Yeah. All right. Did you know, Matt, for $2 Canadian, Cappy, if you had the data young, what is your play? My play would have been to not waste anywhere near the amount of time I did chasing women, and certainly not going to clubs. I would go to the gym. I would absolutely go to the gym and get jacked because an hour in the gym is worth 3 at a nightclub. And nightclubs, keep in mind, this is back when there were nightclubs. There was no internet. You had to go to a bar or nightclub. They're completely, I want to say hostile environments, but they're built up so that a guy has to prove and go through a bunch of trials and tribulations to basically, you're basically going through Bowser's castle to get the princess. There's loud music. There's a cover charge. You got to buy drinks. I would run day game. I'd hit the gym and I'd focus on myself. And truthfully, I think I would ask out a third of the women I did. And if I was dating, the second a girl had any aberrant behavior or unacceptable behavior, like being late, would just cut it off and moved on to a different gal.
Yeah, I co-sign all of that, really, to be honest. I think I wasted far too much time in clubs and things like that. I mean, and ultimately, chasing women and getting into sort of relationships or semi-relationships and things that I didn't want to be in, and it's all a big time sink, really.
Let me ask you this about the nightclub scene, though. I did appreciate my time at the nightclub scene only because we had some really great nightclubs. There's really good music, especially in the 90s. I had moshing, and now I was more into the industrial mosh pit punk.
Were you into like Nitzer Ebb and people like that? Or
like Rammstein, KMFDM. One of my favorite bands, they are a derivative of Ministry. It's called Revolting Cocks.
I know the name. Yeah, I don't know their stuff.
It's just that was, and it was good. But I would have, I could have heard that song on the radio or just bought a DVD and not have to. Although moshing was fun.
Well, I was massively into the so old now. I was into the club scene. I was massively into the whole club thing, the whole dance thing, and I was for a long time. And doing sometimes experimenting with some substances and stuff like that to make it more fun. And Yeah, I loved all that music. I still do. I still like a lot of house music. I like a lot of techno music. I quite like some of the industrial type stuff you're talking about. I mean, I'm a big Depeche Mode fan, and obviously they were really influenced by the industrial thing. So, I go to Berlin a lot, and that's
that's got huge. Maybe not now, but that was like a huge nightclub scene over in Berlin.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they've got a huge music nightclub scene and everything like that. It's a sort of industrial, but then going into techno. So yeah, I mean, I loved all of that side of it, and then the sort of the meeting girls side of it. Unfortunately, then that like a lot of it means that you've got to go to more rubbish clubs because there aren't a lot. Either the girls don't like those kind of clubs, or the girls that are in there are just really focused on music and they're not there to socialize. So then I started to go to cheesier clubs in order to meet girls and stuff. But it was, I mean, like when I say I regret the club days, I mean, I think there is great music. There is a great cultural aspect to it as well, to good clubs, which I think is cool.
Did you ever lower yourself to going to a poetry slam?
I don't. I've kind of tried to avoid those things, really.
Well, yeah, but I remember going to one, and that's all. I was like, nope. And I mean, that may have been one of the more poignant straws on the camel's back where I'm like, this is not worth it. This is bullshit. I don't care how big a tit she's got. I'm not listening to this Marxist slop. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Swaloo Blue for $5 US. So may I inquire who this is? And may I say much better than MLJ, Modern Life John? It's Troy Francis. I guess maybe you should introduce yourself an hour and 10 minutes into the show.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. No, I'm Troy Francis. I am a dating coach and a dating writer and I guess live streamer now. I've got a YouTube channel, so come over and just search Troy Francis. You'll find my YouTube channel. Come over and subscribe there. That's where a lot of my stuff is. But yeah, I've actually written 11 books about this stuff, which is kind of ridiculous. I mean, you'd have to be sort of there's some sort of weird, like addictive side to my personality that's caused me to put out that much content. Now, I will admit they're not all as that. Some of these are more pamphlets,
kind of.
No, I mean we're talking like 50,000 words or something, or 25,000 words or something like that. I've got like a series of books that it's 3 in a series, so that counts for like 3 of them, and they're all about the 25,000 words mark. But yeah, I've written a lot of material just about going out and meeting different girls and the relationships that I've had, and how I've sort of negotiated the dating terrain, I suppose. So that's
What's your oldest book? When was that published?
So the first one I did, because I was writing for Return of Kings, and then I wrote something called The 7 Laws of Seduction, which came out in about 2014.
Okay, so not that long ago. It wasn't like you were writing in 2001 or something like that.
No, I mean, I started blogging in about 2013. I mean, I've been doing this stuff since the early 2000s, but I didn't start creating content,
documenting,
not publicly anyway. And then I did a whole rash of them, like around 2017, 2018, 2015, 2017, 2018. I was just writing all these books, uploading them onto Amazon. And I've sort of, my regret, I suppose, over the last year or so is the writing has taken a bit of a back seat in a way, because I've been doing more of the the YouTube grift and all of that.
Dude, forgive yourself for it, man, because it's bandwidth went that way. Like I was a big blogger, and all of a sudden, there's people that just got a good voice for radio or a voice for video or face for video, I guess, and that's where the money is. And that's where people like. I could write or pen a very well-crafted piece on my blog, and it will at most get 2,000 views. I talk about Bob's and Vagine and women X and men Y, and that'll get 7,000 views. And you get pulled to different media because that's what the market demands you. It's kind of tragic because you'd like to write, but that's what the people.
Yeah, and obviously you're an OG in the space, and it's a privilege to be. The old headphones came out. So excited.
You need higher standards if you think I'm a genius. Genius standards are pretty low.
No, I said sorry, OG.
Oh, OG.
But genius, I mean, old gangster. Like you're an old, you're one of the old, in the space, along with various other people that we know. And I mean, but I'm glad that you confirmed that in a sense, because it seemed to me, I guess it seemed to everybody, that there has been this movement away from the blogs, hasn't there, towards towards video, and particularly now towards live stream content. But I mean, ultimately, maybe like yourself. I mean, ultimately for me, really, I got into the whole thing because I wanted to write. I enjoyed meeting girls, and I enjoyed writing about it. And it was like, you know what? Put the two things together, and there you go.
Right.
But you know what it's like. I mean, we all move on, don't we? And we get pulled into different directions, like you said.
This last book, I just literally this morning I finished it. Now I got to polish it up and everything. I'm not writing another book for at least a year. I'm okay. I hate writing. The irony is like I hate writing, and the only thing I hate more than writing is reading. And my goal is to write more books than I've read for pleasure. Wow, and I'm really close because I hated reading so much. I don't think I've read more than 10 books.
Well, don't you find writing to be sort of, while you're doing it, it's pretty unpleasant, but there is something fantastic when you get to the end and you're like, oh.
You know what it's exactly like, Troy? It's sex. Like the gym. No, sex is enjoyable a long way. It's the fucking gym. I hate the gym. I hate lifting dumb weights. There's no intellectual stimulation. Thank God there's podcasts. Writing is the same thing. The tedium of choosing the right words. I got a should it be an adverb or an adjective? And look at that. Maybe I could do a different word. No, it is. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But it's the same thing with you got to do it, and that's what people pay me for. Apparently, yay! I'm a great writer. Hooray!
Yeah, and we spoke about this offline, but you don't. The dictation software has never floated your boat.
No, because I can write as fast as I think, or type as fast as I think, and the dictation, like if I was driving across the country, which I'm going to do later on today, maybe I could do it, but I've always found it better to have a notepad and just write the ideas down and then convert that to a book later.
I just feel like the thoughts come out differently when you are speaking.
Talking?
But then maybe
go on. I'm curious about your observation.
No, I mean, when I speak, it feels like the thoughts are coming out in a different way than the way they come out when I sit down and type something. And it's somehow, but then maybe that's an artificial way of looking at it, because ultimately what is writing other than recording what's in your brain and putting it into text, right? So arguably dictating is a more direct way of doing that, right? But it just feels...
It is. No, it's just because this is very curious. All right. If you look at my book reviews, like the star ratings, Kindle and paperback will have, let's just say a 3.9 review. Okay. 3.9 times. My audio book is always at minimum 0.7 stars higher, usually almost a full star higher. And the reason why is that I write like I speak. And so there's absolutely nothing wrong. If you want to dictate to an audio, like an audio form, that is perfectly fine, because I think, especially since we're doing nonfiction, we're trying to inform an audience. What we're doing is giving a lecture or a seminar. We're trying to convey information. And so an orator, and that's why I'm almost deadly certain that the reason my audiobooks are so much more higher rated is because they're meant to be listened to, not read. Whereas if I were to write fiction or something that wasn't trying to convey an important philosophical point or some wisdom or information, I think that premium my audiobooks would have would go away. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing it your way if you want to record it, because I think that's how you communicate with most people, is by speaking. So, it doesn't have to be like a Jefferson Lincolnian debate. Fourscore. No one says fourscore 7 years ago. No one says that, but
Yeah. I mean, I was just curious because it's just a different technique. I mean, I haven't done anything long form on dictation, but I have done some shorter form things experimenting with it. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know, man. It's like writing is like you say, it's a love-hate thing, really, and probably more hate. But
it's just the gym to me, man. It's just the means to an end, and I hate it. The day is coming where it's like, if my girlfriend, heaven forbid, were to ever like die or pass away, I'd be really sitting there thinking like, man, I could just eat McDonald's for the rest of my life and not have to do anything and just play video games and be a complete debauch slouch. Artemis Worm for $5 US. What kind of Dungeons and Dragons you playing on Masculine Geeks? 5th edition OSR. We're playing 5th edition. I'm currently killing an average of 2 players per session in my OD&D games. I'll be honest with you, Artemis. I All I know is we're playing 5th edition. I am not the super geek. Rolo is actually the super geek. He knows all the eccentricities and technical details of the different editions of Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm still looking on my character sheet to find out where my, dexterity is or my wisdom is when I roll. Ice Snows for $2. Check out HMS Belfast in London sometime. Have you been there?
No, I'm not quite sure. What is that? That's not the one that's I'm just going to Google it now to see what he means.
Is it a ship or is it a bar? Is what I'm wondering.
Well, it will be a ship, but is it? Oh, hang on a sec. Sorry. It's a ship, but I think you can just visit it. I think it means you can walk around it. Maybe he's just saying, "Oh, you should check it out because it's cool." It's a World War II Royal Navy warship, so I guess you could look around it. I know where it is, but I haven't actually been on it.
Okay.
And Torn says Troy will get his ass kicked in Belfast. Quite
What's
possibly. That? Torn Ham says Troy would get his ass kicked in Belfast. Quite
is this
possibly.
The Irish? Is this the Irish just pissing you off?
Quite possibly. Quite possibly I would. I don't know. I've been to Dublin. I didn't get my ass kicked there. It's Dublin's a good time.
Belfast is Northern Ireland, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. Although I'm told I've got mates who've gone over there and they've had a good time there. So I don't know.
Is it a rough part of town? What
I would imagine. I'd imagine there are rough parts of it for sure. But maybe I'll go there and we can live stream it. I'll see if I get my ass kicked.
You see if you get your ass kicked. Yeah,
we can live stream it.
All right, Laughing Lark for $5. Please go over Troy's background. What he did in corporate UK, how he got out himself. That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, because I imagine you must have had a daytime job somewhere along your
I was working in advertising, and I was working in advertising sales actually for a long time, and then at a fairly high level, so I had a good salary and everything else, which enabled me to was good enough to buy property and stuff like that. So I was doing quite okay, and I worked for a number of companies, but I worked in one place for a long time, and then I left there because there was I think we've talked before about office politics, but there was a horrendous. Sorry, actually, it's in one of your books, isn't it? Sorry, it's in your IQ book. When you're talking about the just that terrible sort of like atmosphere you can get in corporate situations.
Jeez, that's probably in all my books because I hated corporate America so much. Yeah.
So I was deep in the weeds with that, and then I got out. Basically, the industry that I was in was shrinking anyway for a number of reasons, partly because of AI, automation. There was a lot of different changes. The internet, stealing advertising dollars. There was lots and lots of different things happening, and so I was getting into lots of increasingly fraught HR type situations with companies who are looking to shed people and getting paid off, and there are lots of shenanigans going on involving lawyers and things like this. And then in the end, and on the side, I was doing my sort of manosphere stuff, and I was making sales with my books, and the money from the books was going up. And the industry situation was becoming more and more fraught. And also, I'm listening to all these people doing podcasts about being your own boss, doing social media, blah, blah, blah. And in the end, I just sort of thought, do you know what? I think I'll make the jump. And so I made the jump. I had some money behind me. I made the jump. And the rest is history, really.
The irony is how completely unconsciously we kind of backed up into this, like, if you asked me 20 years ago, hey, what are you going to do when you're older? I'm going to be an economist. You didn't even have the concept of podcasting. Oh, yeah, I'm going to be this idiot on the internet who shows up in his pajamas with headphones and yells at people and like charges them money. Like it would have never. People all think like, oh, you did this, or what measures did you take to get here? I'm like, I tripped and fell and stumbled right smack dab into it. This had no strategy or intelligence behind it. It's pure dumb luck. That's all it is.
Yeah. It's kind of funny though, because you said that you'd done some time doing radio. I mean, like I was always actually a big fan, and even when I was young, I loved writing and stuff. So that was my first thing. But also, actually, I always loved like talk radio. I loved the idea of like phone-in shows and all that kind of stuff. And I remember looking into it in one time, like, how'd you get into this and everything? And then of course, the world changed and everyone's got the publish button and you can kind of do it yourself. So it's, I always had that interest in communicating, I guess.
What's great about radio versus podcasting now is not only that, like, the world has now like a limitless number of podcasts that tailored to your personal specific kinks or interests. It's that every podcaster makes way more than you would in radio. Like, you think that if you get to radio or television, you've made money. Nope. The pay is absolute shit.
Yeah.
And as a podcaster, I make way more than I ever did being in radio.
It's the same thing with self-publishing versus getting a publishing deal as well, isn't it? You know, it's
well, even if you got a publishing deal, unless they paid you up front, okay, then you made some really good money. But if your book doesn't sell, the percentages are absolute shit on publishing deals. Like, Amazon is a great deal right now. Like, they pay I think 70% after publishing costs or paper costs or whatever like that. But yeah, the internet has employed millions, literally tens of millions over the world, maybe even hundreds of millions of people, allowing them to do their own thing and be the best in it in their respective field, and presenting it without any guardians say, well, this isn't good quality enough. It's like, shut the fuck up. We're going to present it to the world and get the hell out of here, boomer. We're going to,
well, also as well, I mean, listen, it's like, I always used to want to, because I actually do have an ambition to write fiction. I've got a fiction project I'm working on. I've written some fiction in the past and stuff like that. But it's like, I mean, what the hell could you get published these days in a mainstream house anyway? I mean, Bukowski, I mean, that guy, he wouldn't get through the bloody door. Do you know what I mean? And it's sort of like the kind of thing that you might conceivably want to publish. It would be very, very difficult for somebody of probably our tastes and vintage to get that published by a mainstream house now. So what's the point anyway? You know,
there is no point, because if you have a good book, you don't need the publishing house. You got Amazon. It will sell. It will sell. Like, I'm surprised. I don't know if you guys have Barnes and Noble, but that's like the one remaining bookstore. I'm kind of like, how the fuck are you guys still open? Like, what 80-year-old woman is showing up with her social security check to buy books from you? Like, go away. Like, just get the fuck out of here. And the only real like publishing houses is it's becoming more like you have to already be an established celebrity, and they'll pay you $2 million up front to pay somebody else to write your book for you as a ghostwriter and just sign your name off on it. And then for any serious author, no, they're the New York or London publishing houses it's over. Don't even bother with it. Mike Concho for $5. Thank you for showing me what real hot sauce is. I really thought Frank's was good until I watched your video. Tabasco and Cholula are also my favorite so far. You ever see that video I did?
I haven't seen that one, no, but I do like a bit of Tabasco, so I'll have to check it out. All
right. But the whole point is Tabasco is like, that's basic level.
Okay.
You got to go Yucateco. Yucateco is the best. That's right. All right, that's all right. What else we got here? This may be. Oh no, there's Juan. There's Troy. Hey, we may be able to go free here. Juan, the Aztec patriarch, $2. Happy Thanksgiving, Aaron. See you later. Well, thank you, Juan. Thank you very much. Cool. Let me get to the questions I had for you here.
Good stuff.
I was kind of curious. So, you got a girl. How old are you? Are you my age? Because I'm 45. Are you a little younger than me?
No, I'm the same age, yeah.
Same age. Okay. And we were talking about, like, you just get older and you're tired and you're done with it. And I kind of threw in my towel at about 33.
Yeah.
Because I had enough tumult and chaos where I'm like, I'm just done with this shit. And I found a nice gal who was an accountant and cooked well, and I settled for her. But are you still together?
Are you still together with the same one, or is
yeah.
No, okay.
Yeah, I don't want to lie. It's not that exciting. It's just, it's better than the chaos and the drama and the bullshit. That came with it. And I'm kind of wondering, like, you've carried that torch now on for another 12 years as a guy in your mid 40s. I mean, what's it like? I mean, I imagine your biology, your testosterone's got to be going down. You're getting old. The novelty has had to wear off. It isn't like getting laid, is a new experience for you. I mean, what do you do when you're 45 and you're still a professional player?
Well, I think you try and work out an exit plan, to be honest. I mean, like, it's as you say. I mean, like, I was certainly doing this enthusiastically beyond 33. I mean, like I've said to John before, I mean, like, 39 was a really
That was a good year.
Prolific year for me. It was one of my, amazing. It was one of my most unbelievable. It was like I said, at one point I was dating 5 girls at the same time, which was exhausting.
Yes,
horrendous, exhausting, but nevertheless, I think it kind of helped because I probably looked a bit younger than my age, and whatever. So I kind of and that was also sort of at the height of my corporate career as well. So I was kind of like, I had the whole thing going on. And even into my early 40s. And then I have to say, guys, the last couple of years, it's just gone like, like in terms of desire, it's just like, so I've been seeing my girlfriend for a couple of years. And I mean, it's, if I wasn't in that relationship, what would I be doing now? And the truth is, I'm not really sure, because I think the desire to go out and chase and make things happen like I used to, I don't think is really there in the same way anymore. So, and this is where, I don't think I go MGTOW. I don't think I go like, right now I'm going monk mode sort of thing. But I see where those guys are coming from for sure. Do you know what I mean? And I think in the end, like other things become more important. And I think working on your mission, and like writing, like creating stuff, I think becomes more important for sure.
Well, then, because you got a kind of I don't know if it's a criticism, but an observation a lot of people have is like us old timers, like, well, they all got girlfriends or wives. And it's like, I kind of want to tell them like, yeah, because you'll get sick of it. Like, I don't care how good the ice cream is, you're going to get sick of it. And
yeah.
Is it kind of the same? Because how many more nightclubs do you have to go to, or how many more approaches? Here's a curious, I guess it's something you got to square in your mind. So you got a girlfriend, but your profession is to go up and pick up girls. So like, do you do it just to stay fresh, like going into a boxing ring to spar?
Yeah.
And okay, so you have no interest in these girls. This is just to keep it fresh and
yeah, absolutely. Because you've got to keep your I can't remember.
Edge.
You've got to keep your edge. Yeah, you've got to keep the metal. You've got to keep the sword sharp, kind of thing. So you want to, so you need to be going in there and doing some practice sessions and things like this. So yeah, 100%. But I suppose there's two things here. There's my like personal life, and then there's my like career life. If you
right, it's kind of two different things.
If you want to dignify it with that, but obviously they are sort of linked. And I suppose what I would like to do going forward is to gracefully pull out of do it being so overtly about game and pull it more into more generalized things, and hopefully continue to write and to make that my focus, as opposed to trying to compete with like the Myrons of this world and everything forever, because I don't think that's really desirable or where I want to be, to be honest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you don't want to do it. It's just like, do I go to a bar? Do I talk to the girl? You've done it you've done it 1,000 times, 2, 3, 4,000 times.
Many thousands of approaches and stuff. Yeah. So yes, it does become sort of like, at some point there's got to be a cutoff point. But then, like you said, in a sense, we guys of our vintage, we are kind of like the canaries in the coal mine, because, if the old model is no longer functioning, if it's now no longer like, all right, I'm going to find a nice wife and get the picket fence and all that stuff, then what do you do? What do you do when you get into your 40s and God forbid your 50s and all the rest of it, right? And we need to find out what that way forward is. So let's see. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of funny because you get criticism whichever way you go, because it like I've seen some guys saying, oh, these dudes on Rule Zero, they've all got wives or girlfriends. What do they know, sort of thing. And actually, that's not, like I say, I'm still out and about, and I know John certainly is, but I'm still out and about. I still see the dynamics as they're happening in 2020 right now. So that it's a kind of a false criticism in a way. But at the same time, you'll also get criticized if you don't. Because if you don't have a girlfriend, then they're like, oh, look at these sad old washed up PUAs, can't even get a relationship. Why should you listen to them? And it's like, well, which would you prefer? The truth of the matter is, a lot of guys come to this space because they want to find a girlfriend. So in a sense, if you've got a girlfriend, surely you're better qualified to talk about that, right?
Right. Well, and also I'd say you could criticize the old timers, but I really like Ryan Stone, not just as a person, but I respect him because of his experiences and what he's gone through. But Ryan said he was a big player. I don't know if you read his book, but he was a big player. And then he's like, I'm done. And I think the younger guys like, okay, yeah, you want to play the field, you want to spread your seeds, sow your wild oats, go ahead and have that. But inevitably, every guy's like, this is fucking bullshit. This is tiring and taxing, or I don't like it anymore. And you want to retire and get out. And so the fact that every guy is more or less either one of two things, settled down with a quality gal that may not be the greatest and hottest, sexy celebrity lingerie model of Victoria's Secrets, but a good quality woman, or they've gone kind of better Bachelor Joker route where it's like, even Cooper, like, nope, not Sterling, but Rich, where it's like, nope, not doing it. It should tell you guys something, that this is the data coming back from the guys who are, 700 yards down the field from you, saying this is what it is. And so I would never deny a guy his desire to chase gals and get plenty of tail and have a good old time. But inevitably, you will date enough girls, you realize they're not this amazing, wonderful being. They're half the population. Most of them are pretty fucking boring and dull. And then you better start keeping a keen eye out, I'd say, for quality women. Like, does she cook? Does she got a job? I mean, this is not sexy or exciting, but it's kind of like all of a sudden, this is kind of the, as you were talking about what happens after you retire. It's like, well, you either don't commit to gals or you do commit to a gal. And it's very important who that gal is if you commit to her.
Or you grow a massive beard and find God, which is the other thing. I think there's that angle as well. And I think the reason that kind of thing happens is because everyone's searching for some kind of meaning, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? And of course, I mean, I joke around a lot on Twitter and stuff, but of course, meaning in that sort of spiritual sense is not to be found in having sex with a lot of different girls from nightclubs. It isn't. But and then guys have this sort of like, well, which way do I go? Do I just carry on with that? And that feels a bit meaningless. And so then they'll sort of like retreat into some sort of more traditional sort of sense of this is how things are meant to be, which may be marriage or it may be religion or whatever.
Cultural tradition or something like that.
And I don't actually think, I think that I think there's another route. But let's see where we get to. By the way, so Dariel in the chat says, terribly sorry, but this guy Troy looks like a 4 out of 10. Jesus, my ratings keep going down. Somebody said I was a 5. Now you've got this dude saying I'm a 4. I think actually somebody said, I've beaten this because somebody said, oh, with those moles, you look like a 2. So I don't know.
Do you take it seriously?
Very serious. Well, I mean, listen, if I am a 4, my dating life has still been really, really good. So I guess the message for guys out there is if a 4 out of 10 can do it, you can certainly do it.
I think this may just be some of my audience giving you guff. You know Donovan Sharp, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like he catches so much flack and he nowhere near as bad as you. I mean, but this guy, he's like, I can't believe. I'm like, Donovan, relax. You got like 250,000 subscribers. There's going to be a couple people who disagree with you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But all right, Sam Whiskey, $10. A lot of guys are buying expensive shoes to impress girls at the clubs. I'm surprised men are buying shoes or that there are clubs left over. What they don't know is that it costs more to produce shoe boxes than the shoes. Paper is expensive and shoes are not. Okay, that's Sam. Fashion really played I mean, aside from being presentable and looking slightly sharper than the average dude, I mean, is fashion a big tool in your toolbox?
I would say it is. I mean, I've always been a fan of. I've always been kind of interested in. I don't know. Like I've always liked clothes. I like kind of finding ways to stand out a little bit, and things. So yeah, I think it is. But I don't really market myself as a fashion expert because if somebody came to me and said, right, so what do I wear in order to get the girls? I'm kind of like, well, I don't really know because everyone's different. Everyone's got their own different look. Everyone's got their different, kind of style and everything else. I kind of know the stuff that I think suits me, and I'm quite into that. And I actually did for John. I've done a presentation about fashion, which I've taken the guys through on his course a few times to talk about some general overarching principles, which are basically get clothes that fit. You know, that's the bloody.
It's not, and that's always kind of like everyone. Oh man, fashion. Like there was what's his name? Kevin Samuel, I think is his name.
Yeah.
Now, this guy is. I mean, that's his cup of tea. He is the fashionable man. You look, and every possible hair is groomed, and he's impeccable. But I've never put that much faith into fashion. Like as long as you're one step above jeans and a t-shirt, and depending on the occasion that it calls for, it's I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like it's some people's thing. It's not everyone's thing. I personally quite like it, but I mean, you know, like you say, ultimately you've got to look presentable, and you just get clothes that fit. Do you know what I mean? You don't want to look like you dressed out of Walmart. You know, even if you did, you want to get fitted stuff.
Get it tailored, right? Clem joke: $5 wearing shoe boxes on my feet. Okay, cool. Thank you. Sometimes people just throw money in and make statements. It's
exactly. It's a beautiful world.
Like I said, you asked me 20 years ago, would you? Yeah, some guy paid me $5 to start wearing shoes on my feet. Like, all right, that's how I made my rent that week.
Yeah.
So, getting back more to the future, because I'm curious about this. So you got a gal. We got this fork in the road where, okay, I guess you go religion, spiritual life, finding a gal, or committed, confirmed bachelor type. I mean, what do you do then? You've played the game, you've done this profession, not because you couldn't continue to do it, but you must have some other intellectual pursuits. I mean, what's next then in your world? I mean, you go back to corporate, or you just write? I know you said you want to write some books. What do you got in store?
No, I think, you know, I want to do everything that I possibly can to avoid going back to corporate. And I think that, you know, and
you'll be the 80-year-old dating coach. Let me tell you about hypergamy.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, hypergamy in the care homes is it's off the scale, guys. You need to know the truth about that. She's always looking for the guy with the better Zimmer frame, you know?
Right.
But no, I think, I mean, laying out the game plan. I mean, what we're doing here is we build an audience, don't we? We have an audience of people that kind of hopefully like our stuff, and they like your humor, they like the way your vibe, the way you come across, and then you put a book out, and hopefully they buy your books, and then you know, and I mean, like, I would like to do something similar. You know, I have, believe it or not, guys, even as a 4 out of 10, I have something of an audience. I mean, it's not as big as Cappy's, but it's, you know, I mean, that's sort of my game plan. And then I will write more. I will maybe continue to create courses, but maybe about somewhat different things. And hopefully I'll bring some people with me. I mean, let's see how it goes. But I believe that I can do that. I believe that's a viable option for anybody, really, in this day and age, that you can put yourself out there, create content, create an audience, and then find things to sell to those people. I've never really wanted to be one of those sort of, and maybe this has been a disadvantage to me in a way, because I've never really wanted to be that 2-dimensional YouTube pickup guy. It's like, right, guys, 3 things that you can say to a girl at the coffee shop, you know, kind of like, I've always wanted to make it a little bit more cerebral than that. And I guess that loses me some people, but I think that gains me some people as well. So, you know, I'm just going to continue to push forward, creating the content that I want to create, and hope that I bring some people with me at the same time.
I think a lot of us who are the old farts, you know, this Gen X group, we are starting to come on the next stage where it's like, we're either going to back out or something like that. And as far as I could tell, there is no, you know, this is all new territory. This has not been
exactly
before. And whereas just because, all right, Troy may not be, you know, doing pickup game at 65 and filming his videos in 4K definition or whatever, doesn't mean that this, like, there's stuff beyond Pluto. We got the Oort cloud. There's all this other stuff. And I think these younger men, they're going to come across this crossroads in the future as well.
I mean, I don't think, say, YouTube or content creation is not there isn't necessarily an age limit on it. I mean, look at George Bruno. I mean, he's 95 now, and he's still putting, he's still putting out videos about chopsticks and stirring coffee and stuff. So, like, you can continue to create content, you can continue to build and grow an audience, and then you can continue to, it's the old 1,000 true fans thing, isn't it? I mean, like, I believe anyway. But then, of course, in the background, maybe you've got some other stuff going on. I mean, I've got a property. I've got, starting to look at this newfangled crypto thing now. There are different things you can do as well. But yeah, I mean, if there's one thing in my life that the hill that I will die on is not to go back to corporate. So, whatever I'm going to do.
I can't. No, I there's no way. I mean, I've even think like, if push came to shove, I'd go on welfare or just die in a ditch. There's no way. And if I did,
the Smith and Wesson.
No, not kidding. No, I'm not. And if I did go back, I'd go out in style, not necessarily suicide and shooting up the place. I mean, but like I'd go there and I'm like, oh yeah, I identify as transgender. I'd get my gender changed on my birth certificate, and there'd be lawsuits, and I'd go into I'd whip my dick out on the table and say, shut the fuck up. And I mean, it would be like Office Space, the movie. Gutting a fish. Yeah, it'd be that. Well, good. Well, anyway, why don't you tell everyone your website, what you're doing? Because you have more than just one pot on the stove. So tell everyone about your sites, your books, services, things like that. And your class coming up, by the way.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. Well, like, as I said, I mean, like, if you follow me on YouTube, just type Troy Francis into YouTube. You'll find my channel. I've got loads and loads of stuff up there. I'm doing live streams most days. I'll be doing one again after this on that channel. So you can join me over there if you want even more pearls of wisdom. My website is called realtroyfrancis.com. I haven't been blogging as much as I used to, but there's still a bunch of articles up there, so you can go and read through that stuff. If you look on Amazon, you'll find a bunch of my books on there, including 7 Laws of Seduction, How to Be an Asshole, which I think Cappy's actually internalized.
I didn't read the book before trying. I winged it, and it came out all right. I'm a pretty good asshole.
Exactly. And a bunch of other things. And yeah, I've got a course which is called Charisma and Dating Academy, which is opening for new students next week, actually, on the 1st of December. So there's a 5-day enrollment period from the 1st to the 5th of December. You guys can join. It's capped at 100 students this time, so you need to act quite quickly. But it's $497 for that. It's basically a transformative course that takes you from chode to champ in dating. We work on your charisma. We work on your mindsets. We work on differentiation, how to stand out from the other dudes around you, not be beige and boring. Right. Exactly. Plus all the game and dating techniques that you need in one nice package. It comes along with 10 live Zoom webinars as well. So all info on that, it's all on my YouTube. Join me over there.
So this is on Teachable, right?
This is on Teachable, yeah. So they get 10 hours. They get 10 hours worth of in-depth video content on Teachable, all about charisma. Because I did quite a deep dive into charisma. I studied charisma for over a year. Looking at sort of academic papers and reading books, and just really doing all that spade work. So you don't have to, if you like. So there's a whole load of stuff on charisma, but also on the bad boy archetype. Being that kind of like that lovable jerk. Then stuff about mindsets. Then stuff about how to differentiate yourself, stand out from the crowd, and then the whole A to Z. This is what you do when you walk up to the girl to taking her home and going to bed.
All right, so you then there's practicum or
yeah.
And that's 10 hours.
10 hours worth, yes.
Wow. I think mine's like 5.5, and I was like, damn. There's you know what's funny is you take something simple like minimalism, which is my course, but then charisma. And if you break it down, there's more than just like, oh, be like Cary Grant and talk funny to the ladies. I mean, to break it down to its basic elements takes all of a sudden, it doesn't surprise me. You got 10 hours of material.
Yeah, I really wanted to do a deep dive into it for sure. And then what they also get as well is a bunch of in-field videos showing me actually interacting with real life ladies. So I've seen
some of them. Yeah. And those are legit. It's kind of funny to like, I fell in love with you a little bit. I'm like, that fucking British jerk with his fucking accent. Look at him. And he's just smiling. Yeah, no, that's a good one. That was
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you saw them on that on the Rule Zero thing, didn't you?
Yeah, that's where I saw it. Yeah, that's the one.
So So that's a great teaching thing, because like like you can talk about this stuff, and we can talk about this stuff till the cows come home, but unless you actually see it, then it's sort of hard to contextualize. So
well, and to physically or fundamentally philosophically understand it, I mean, to know, you got to know what the formula is, because you and I could say, all right, do this with that shoe and that hat. You don't understand what's going on, but you do have to understand the underlying psychology involved in something like charisma, and maybe you can't recreate it on the fly, but it's that's one thing that going up and approaching girls, not to revert back, but to be quick on your feet and clever and witty. I think that's the ultimate form of charisma, because it's not like a Cary Grant movie where it's all scripted and like, wow, that was a great line. So yeah, that line took 5 hours to write in the context of this fictional setting they had in a movie. You got to be more real world and real time than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, indeed. So that's what we teach. I can break it down. Then we got to do live webinars. It'd be great if you come into one of the live webinars, actually, or a few of the live webinars, if you're around, if you're available.
Sure. Yeah. Send me a link. I mean, you know me, I ain't got no schedule, so it's whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, just and then you can spend like 2 hours per session minimum, just really training the guys on all aspects of dating a game. From online game to what to do in person, etc., etc. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a great lead up to Christmas for sure.
Cool. All right, one more. We got $5 from Sam Whiskey. If you wear a New Balance shoes and have hair like Troy, you will get the girls. Yes, this is. Do you know the power of New Balance shoes?
Is that the way forward as far as shoes?
No, New Balance shoes is what like old boomers wear, but they're
I see. Right, yeah.
They're great running shoes, and I have them. I swear by New Balance shoes. My old man has them. I get them, and then I took a picture one time up on a mountain. And I had my feet out like this, and this girl's like, "Oh my God, are those New Balance? You're like 75 years old." So the trick is,
they used to be a big thing back in the day, didn't they?
Well, they still are. I think like serious runners and all that. They're just not like fashionable. It's just, they got a, I don't know. I like New Balance shoes. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Troy. I appreciate it very much. Everybody.
Mila says I'm a 9, by the way. So screw you to the haters.
Who's Mina?
Mila.
Who's Mila?
I don't know. She's in the chat.
Oh, she's in the chat. Okay, good. Well, So, all right. Well, thanks very much for for coming on the show there, Troy, and we'll see you guys later. Do you know how to take us out appropriately?
Enlighten me.
You have to say toodles.
Toodles.